Welcome back, everyone. Going into the second half here of Drop Frames. Let's talk some video games. Let's start with Returnal, I guess. We could really go any direction here. I've already got
The
Returnal footage
game
pulled
of
up.
the year.
Yeah, so this is your game of the year.
Yeah.
I would like to poke holes in your game of the year because it's fun to do. What?
Let's go.
Let's talk about it.
And it's a polarizing ass game. I completely agree with you. Like,
I don't.
this game is either gonna dig under your skin and you're gonna hate it, or you're gonna love it.
I definitely didn't hate it. I think this is like, if you put a number to it, I think this is like the quintessential 8 out of 10 for me.
Really? Okay.
But knowing what I know about you and how much you liked Final Fantasy VII Remake when it came to the ending, I totally see why you're into this story.
It's like, yes.
Yeah, like
super into it.
This is right up your alley. How do we want? Because last year we kind of skipped around, or last week we kind of skipped around the story component of that. How do we just want to put up a spoiler thing and like? It's hard to talk about the game without bringing in that aspect.
This conversation, I would actually like to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the ending is going to play really large into some of the stuff we're going to be talking about with this game. So
I agree. I also don't have.
We'll try to keep it and on the back end and like pad it with stuff of just like impressions at the start. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that we can go kind of spoilery on this because there's going to be a lot of interpretation going forward.
Yes. Yeah. God damn it. I'm trying to once again find, I don't have a spoiler graphic ready. Someone put their hand up while I'm trying to find this. Max, you talk about it. I'll hurry and try to find this. What do you think? Your game of the year, really? What Returnal's that good?
Yeah, so Returnal really hits a lot of the notes that I personally love about certain movies, about certain genres and franchises. I'm already, like, one of my favorite movies of all time is Aliens, like next to like Back to the Future, like a couple of my favorite films of all time. But my personal favorite film genre of all of them is like space thriller or like psychological space horror. Things like that are just my favorite. So, of course, Bloodborne naturally accompanies that too.
Where does Event Horizon fall for you? Is that up there or not?
Incredibly fond memories, remembering it being amazing, but upon like a 2020 and beyond rewatch, all right, like it's got some parts that are okay, and then it kind of falls apart in the end. But yeah, I really loved Event Horizon growing up, especially. But other movies like there's a lot of inspiration. This game is just so many things put together that it's insane.
It's the best I could do on short notice. I can throw some text too. That's a spoiler. Yeah, sorry.
Oh my god, it's a car spoiler. It took me forever to figure out what the fuck that was. God, the spoiler graphic.
It's a stand-in graphic, you know? It is what it is.
Beauty.
Top men are on the spoiler graphic.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Some people won't. Some people won't. There's just a lot of ways to interpret it.
To me, I had some crazy hot takes like halfway through this game. So I'm just like, so chat, is this game just Metroid but better? Like some really big, like,
there's a lot of Metroid.
Clearly takes so many things from like Metroid, from Alien, from Solaris, from even Doom. Like a lot of the level design in this game really reminds me of Doom, like 2016 and Doom Eternal. Yeah. So much exploration, like, and obviously, like, funny enough, this might be a spoiler, but the roguelite aspect. We got the graphic. Okay, we're good. But the roguelite aspect of the game is kind of like a selling point, even though they don't preach that. Like, they don't really, it's not like a part of its marketing that this game is really a roguelite. I'm not a huge roguelike guy at all. Like, I've played Hades and that was it. So my comparison is like, oh, these are boons. That's a chaos boon. Like, I get it. I understand now. But really, like, after you beat it and you go through it a few times, you realize how little of the game really is roguelite. Like, it has some parts of that.
Yeah.
But it's still like strictly like level based. It's still strictly, you can skip bosses. Like, it's got roguelite elements, but it's so many different things that it kind of comes together to make it its own thing.
Yeah, I think that, well, I talked a lot about it last week. So, and Co, you did not, I think, 'cause you were worried about spoilers. So I'm interested on your take on the game and also everything Max just said.
Okay, so I will say I felt like the story kind of seemed developed around the roguelite stuff, especially from like the story perspective, the main story. One thing I'm very interested though, how many times did you beat the game? 5 times.
To get final true like final credits, last credits, I think you have to beat it 4 or 5 times.
I beat it
twice.
I beat it once, but
You
I
have to
watched
beat
the
it
other
twice.
endings. Yeah.
Because I saw the final ending after the second time beating it. Like you have to beat it, and then that unlocks the 6 pieces you can get. Once you beat it one time, the 6 pieces become gettable. And
Right.
then you get all those, go to the house, and then you can beat it the last time. You don't have to actually beat the game every time. You can just get the pieces and then go back to the house and then beat it for the final one. But
Right.
that's
But you got the car keys as well, right?
yeah. Like literally all you do is you play through the game a second time, and you make
Mhm.
sure to explore everywhere to get the pieces. And then when you
Right.
get all the pieces in the area in the last one, you just die. You don't even need to beat it. And then you can go back into the 4th area, get the house. That's when you get the keys, and then you go and
Right.
use the keys to beat it. But the thing, and this is one of the things that like I wanted this to be my game of the year. Like I loved the gameplay. I love the weapons. I love the action. The action was fantastic. In fact, funny enough, coming from Nier, there were a lot of similarities with like the ball mechanic, where it's kind of
Sure.
like they're the bullet hell kind of thing. Loved it. But the thing that drove me crazy about this game is the fact that it is a roguelite that kind of like you're saying it doesn't feel like a roguelite.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Once you beat it, you realize it's not really.
But in my opinion, in the wrong ways. That's the thing. Because the thing that's so beautiful about a roguelite is that it encourages you to keep playing it. And that's what I wanted from this game. I loved the
This
gameplay.
game, you're done playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
there's
the
an
problem.
end.
But
Yeah.
like I was done playing a roguelite after 2 playthroughs. And that's what was driving me crazy. I wanted a reason to keep I wanted 15 wins to get the full
Yeah.
story. And it's like I beat it twice, and then to be blunt, and this is the big spoiler, I beat this game twice, and I felt like I was on the second ending of a 10 ending part. The ending told me nothing.
I agree.
If anything, it just left more gray.
Yeah.
And here's what drove me even crazier. I love this world. I thought it was so cool. Like I was digging the aesthetic. I was like, why is all her shit involved in this? Like, what is
Yeah.
going on? And then I got to the end of the game, and I was seriously like, are you mother gonna actually tell me this was all a dream? Like, is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna make this incredibly cool planet, this awesome lore, this super cool area, and then you're gonna hit me with oh, it's all just her mental problems in the case of an alien world. And it's like, no, this place is awesome. I want aliens. I want like actual real life stuff. Like I don't know, but we don't need some convoluted like, oh, it was all in her head because of her lack of understanding about her relief. Like, did that not?
So your
I-
interpretation.
yeah,
So
it's
this is
interpretation.
great. So your
'Cause I was the
interpretation
same
is
way,
that
but I
she's
don't
like
think-
in a coma or it's a dream, right?
Is that that question to you? Is that what
That's it. The issue is that, especially after the hidden ending, when the ultimate baddie is her mother in a wheelchair, so you can make all these assumptions about how it's actually like her guilt and holding back her mother, and that all this stuff like it leads you to believe there's no way it couldn't be some type of interpretive experience, because everything around it is tied to the fact that it's this personal journey that people go through, accepting grief and responsibility and the way of
Sure.
the world and things like that. But at the same time, there's all these other elements where it's like, okay, if that's the case, then why did it make the point in the middle of the game to say that she escaped the planet and lived her full life and then returned to the planet? Like, what possible?
And-
what
and
would that have
did
to
you-
do with anything?
So, I it took me like I had to sit with my chat for like 2 hours
That's
and
what I
started
did, yeah.
reevaluating stuff. And the conclusion I came to is that the alien planet is 100% real. And
Awesome.
did you get a deep understanding of the astronaut?
Not really.
She's the astronaut.
So
Well, yeah. The last scene
So
suggests
they-
that
so
she
the
asked about
game-
'cause she
so here's the
warped
crazy
back.
thing, and
Yeah.
if you go back and you start looking at all the marketing, right? A lot of the marketing isn't talking about like you return, you do all this. It's talking about time. Like time is like moving water, like it's waves. It goes in and it comes back. It goes in and it comes back. And you think that's referring to the death, right? You're going to die, you're going to come back, you're going to die, you're going to come back. There's a big turning point in the game where your character wins and you escape the cycle and you go back to Earth and you relive your life. You live out the rest of your life like a hero, this woman that survived this crazy alien planet, to only find out that that throughout that life, she passes away from old age, and it's seemingly 63 years later, and her ass wakes up back on the planet. And she's like, holy shit, I'm still here. I didn't get out. This is awful. But everything's insanely dilapidated. Nothing makes any sense. She starts talking about like how 63 years have passed, but it looks like thousands of years have potentially passed. Here's the part that is kind of hard, and I thought this all the way until the very end when we started talking about it. We went back and looked at astrologs and all the insane amount of storytelling, and I don't even think there's a guaranteed answer for this. But she didn't go 63 years into the future. She went thousands of years into the past.
Then how was her ship so rusted out and still there?
Because she's been doing this. There are two different versions of. So here's the crazy gimmick.
This is okay. This is what I got into as well. So I'm glad we're on the
so
same page.
The astronaut is our main character, right?
Okay.
But there's different events that happen to our main character. At one point, our main character was so entrapped by this that she tried to find something that she could do to change it, which involves killing her own mother. She's the astronaut who manipulates her own mother to die with her inside. And she goes back to change that, setting the future events for a future version of herself to potentially be free of this shit. So the younger version of herself, the very thing you see at the end, you're like, oh, so this child that essentially drowns, which is the younger version of herself with her mother in the car, the mother escapes and lives, but gets traumatized, and she's like in a handicap. She's like handicapped because of it. But the last images you see of the game is the little girl drowning, still under the water, which is that water thing you see. And even though she's a young child, she still gets returned. So no matter what, her existence is directly tied to this planet. She's directly tied to Atropos, which is this god of like the Greek mythology things, like a god of time and death.
Yeah.
So here's the gimmick. The gimmick is that there's two different versions of Celine. There's a version of Celine that is actively trying to get herself out of this situation. And the direct tie into that is that she's the one that shoots her own ship down. She's the one when she wakes up out of a house sequence,
thing,
one of the final house sequences. She realizes that she was the one on the turret that shot the ship down onto the planet. There's a lot of stuff that I don't understand here about what the hell's going on, but she had been stuck in this so much longer. And you get this at the very early part of the game where she sees bodies from thousands of years ago. She says they look centuries old, like not maybe thousands, but hundreds of years. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm here with them and I am damaged in the same way they are, but this looks so old. She's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I just got here. You think that it's referring to the fact that time is like moving forward, right? And she is like progressing. But the fact is, like, with what happens with the returning of her character, it goes way further back than what you assume is actually happening. It's super weird. It's contrived. You really got to look into the story logs to start getting like a basic understanding of what's going on. And a lot of it is metaphorical with the Greek gods of, them explaining what's happening in comparison to like Greek mythology.
Yeah.
But 100%, like, the story is really about this planet, this Atropos thing, this alien being is like a god. It is in complete control of like time and death. And this entire alien civilization needed or was trying to ascend, right? They were trying to appease the planet, like this god that is like the god of their planet. None of them could ever do it because it was always Celine. She was the one that was always like, the god chose her to constantly fulfill this role. And that's why when you go further in the game, You find like all their ancient text and all this crazy shit on the walls and all this ridiculous Promethean shit that's been there for seemingly thousands of years. It isn't of them anymore, which you initially think it's of just their culture. It's actually Selene. Selene is somehow rooted into their culture over however many tens of thousands of years. Like, it goes back so far that she's always been there, and it actually modifies their complete understanding of the world. So that's why the boss plays the theme. The second boss, or sorry, the fourth boss.
The fourth boss plays the song.
Plays the song that she died to.
So
right?
I also read a theory that the fourth boss is supposed to represent her dad in Greek lore.
It does say father at some point. Yeah. She does say something about it being her father, but you never hear anything else about her father.
In like Greek mythology, isn't the whatever the fourth boss's name, isn't that supposed to be her dad or something like that? In the Greek lore and the pantheon, I think it's supposed to be. I think father.
So. Not Helios, but
not Hyperion. Hyperion is Sisyphus's dad or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
My favorite comment so far from chat. Oh, I'm failing this class.
Well, that's the thing,
dude. It's super.
Intense. Yeah,
it's super weird. It goes so like you really there's so many astrologues, and then the crazy part is once you get her astrologues of her actually talking to herself in so many different versions, you start to pick up on the ones that are old Selene and the ones that are like the Selene that tried to actually change things to I'm going to break my ass out of this, to the one that's like currently still stuck in it because no matter what happens, it's her destiny. Like, she was chosen to do this no matter how many ways she tries to manipulate time. And you really start feeling it once you go through.
The ones that are kind of like just accepting what's going on and like just talking about the crazy ones. A lot of the ones that seem a lot more crazy. But okay, so I really like some of the stuff that you're coming up with on this. I think that it's very five-head. I will say the ship shooting down thing is something that I've come back to a lot, because any version of the Selene should remember that like her arriving on that planet was because of the reason she couldn't like fly out after realizing there was a problem was because her ship got shot down. So why would she shoot herself down if she was trying to escape? And there was definitely, and also what was even stranger is she apparently gained consciousness in that moment after the shot had been taken, and then retroactively said, whoa, I guess I was the one that did that. So what presence was in her when she did it? And what was the purpose of that presence at that time? It seems like they were trying to lure her to the planet and not get her to go away. Some other things that are super strange with this story is I had a lot of those questions too, and I like that idea about her being there and having her stuff absorbed into the world, because that was something that was always very strange to me, and it would make kind of sense if she was this deified thing on here. But one of the things that drives me crazy, and again going back to the game itself, is why would they obscure this to that point? It's one thing to leave it open to interpretation. It's another thing to tell a story. Like, there's so many things in this that could go so many different ways that it's
because
just it
the developers love
like, unless you've already planned a 2, or there's going to be some DLC that actually tells a story. Like, this feels unfinished. Like, in a lot of ways, I felt like we got to the point where they were just like, yo, we just got to wrap this up, and we just got to take what we have and finish it up. Like, it feels half told. And that's one of the reasons that goes back to the gameplay mechanics, that it drives me so crazy that you can beat it twice and get it all. Like, I want to beat this game 10 times, and every single time I beat it, I want to get divulged more into what's actually going on in the world. The meat, the meat of this game feels like it's not there in a lot of ways.
The game 100% does not want to give you the bow to wrap it all up.
It doesn't.
Clearly, the devs love
with it, for sure.
Clearly, the devs love Bloodborne, and clearly they like the Souls style storytelling, where a lot of parts of it, when you really vade-vidya it and boil down like a huge element of the storytelling of the game, it essentially boils down to things that are left ambiguous on purpose, that are left to interpretation. Like a lot of Bloodborne lore is like this subtext upon history upon subtext upon history. And then when you finally like get to the point where I've watched this video for 2 hours, right? Just give me the answer. And they're like, here it is right here. This is the thing you've been looking for. And they don't give you the answer. They let you figure out like what exactly is your interpretation of these characters and their motivations and what they do. And it's 100% exactly the storytelling beats of a Souls style game. And it's told in the exact same way through item text, through like logs and notes and descriptions. And this game does a bit more metaphorical stuff because in the end you come to this conclusion. And I was there the same thing where I was like, man, I feel sort of like disassociated with the game because it's like, oh, it's just a dream, right? And that's the first impression that I kind of get as well in the end is that, oh, she's like in a coma or something like that. She's dealing with trauma and that this is her way of like coping with the trauma. That's 100% true, but I feel that it's not the fact that she's like sitting on Earth in a coma because they don't really give you there's not a lot in the game that complements the fact that she's just insane. To me, it really boils down to the fact that like her trauma and all the crazy stuff that leads up to the development of her being an astronaut and an explorer and a scout and all this stuff with her parents or with her mother and trying to appease her mother that didn't even seemingly like her daughter very much, is that doesn't actually, the alien civilization isn't there to be a representation of just her trauma. It was actually formed. These creatures exist because of the trauma being there. She has been trapped in this thing for so long that like an alien civilization has like grown up around her because she's going forward and back in time by so many years that the trauma of what happened to her actually influences what these creatures are trying to do. They're trying to ascend. They're trying to do all these things that Celine could do. But because so much time passes and so much crazy shit happens to her, and she has no idea how long she's been stuck in this Groundhog Day, that these creatures sort of formed their entire like religion, culture, existence around the fact that they want to do and appease this god in the way that she has. That's the interpretation that I got out of it.
I like the theme. How does that tie in to the very ending though, when the creature is her mother? Is that like all tying back to that, where the creature ends up being that weird, seemingly pregnant version of her mother in the wheelchair? Like the ultimate power is actually born from the trauma. But then again, then that would assume that the planet itself has some completely differential power that is causing all this to happen.
Well, the planet seemingly is like a god of time and death in many ways. And I'd have to get the exact interpretation of what Atropos kind of refers back to in like Greek mythology.
Yeah.
But the mother being pregnant is related to Helios. And Helios being the name of the ship is seemingly Celine's brother that died before she could ever meet him. And she's dealing with that grief because Celine is the one that inadvertently kills her unborn brother.
She caused it by
in the
being
car
the
crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she was the astronaut. She was trying to get herself out of this and didn't realize that she had an unborn brother by the name of Helios that was going to be named Helios that her mother was pregnant with. So she lives with that grief. That's why she constantly says, Helios, how old would you be now? When she wakes up like thousands or many Returnals later, and she wonders, like, where the hell are we? We're 63 years later. How old would Helios be now? And there's constant references to Helios being this like ship in the stars. So that's a part of the grief that she's sort of dealing with that has also manifested itself in fabricated parts on the planet. But it's also confusing to me why seemingly the last boss has the face of Celine. Like, that to me, that sort of boils back down to potentially that the face of Celine might be like the original astronaut, like the original,
because you never
like that
see
might
it.
be what,
Yeah.
like her existence goes so far back and manipulates so much of time, and she's tried to change this stuff so much that she eventually becomes one of these great harbingers that is like a threat that the alien civilization took one version of Selene that somehow gained all this power, if not knowledge, if not anything of this civilization, and became like the last boss. But the weirdest part of the story is that it's really, and this is why I want someone to really dig into the lore and really come up with some conclusions on some of this stuff. It's left like really ambiguous. Why does the last boss have your face? Like what? So you're the astronaut, but you inadvertently are trying to kill yourself in the past, but at the same time to get out of the Returnal, but at the same time kill your brother, and that's why the mother's like seemingly pregnant. Which parts are in her head, much less which parts have actually manifested on the planet? Is the planet like really
the
real?
car at the bottom of the ocean with working headlights? Like how,
Yeah.
what exactly? Like what did they build? Did they make a little?
At that point, is that all in Celine's head? Like there's a lot of stuff that is left. Like I'd honestly have to just sit here and I gotta watch like excessive profanity play the game because he's reading everything of the lore, every single character, and even the lead storyteller of the game really goes into a lot of detail on Twitter about the storytelling, on how like every single level, all the level design, like the ways you get guns, even like a lot of the gameplay, everything is here to complement like this story of seemingly this woman that has been stuck here possibly throughout all of our like modern perception of time. Like she's been doing this for so long that she's manipulated like even the existence of maybe the alien life on the planet. So it's crazy, man. Like it's truly like a 2001 Space Odyssey, Bloodborne kind of storytelling situation. It does not want to give you a bow. It does not want to wrap this thing up and give you a bow and be like, she's just stuck there. She's in a coma. In fact, in the end, the only resolution you get when you get back is by reading the log, and she's like, "Yo, this is my home. I realize now." Like she realizes after doing this, and she comes back again after finding White Shadow and everything, finding the message, which was ultimately her sending a message out for herself to get her back to the planet because she knows that this is her home. But there's like, at what point did she realize in the past that this is her home, that she's just trying to get herself back here to not suffer anymore because of the things she did in the past when she seemingly tried to kill her mother / kill her brother, or killed her brother, and dealing with that grief. Like, now I don't want to deal with that grief. Like there's so many ridiculous levels to this shit that it's nuts.
There's a lot.
I think that's the box quote. There's
Is
so
it
many
just a whole
ridiculous
long,
levels
like
to
a
this shit.
paragraph?
It's nuts. Quote.
Back in the
like,
box
it-
notes for Maximilian.
It is like that. That's like there's so many little things in this game that are there's so many little details that you can like put into columns into which one it would be attributed to. Like for instance, why did she go to the planet when the warning was there not to? Why did she decide to fight through that? When we can assume by looking at her spacesuit that she is at a certain point in human history based on the technology she's wearing.
Sure.
Why does she return to that exact same point when she returns from her whole I'm going to live out my life and die? And can we assume that that exact point is when she landed on the planet in the first place? And in which place, like, is when she returned to Earth, does that mean, it was at a different period? It didn't look like it. There was no like I got home to Earth and it was years and years later. So we can assume that time in that space was linear, unless the time that she spent away was somehow dilated. So it's just like there's all these little.
It's sort of, to me, there's big elements because time travel is a big part of the story. Once you come to the conclusion that she's not 63 years in the future, she's thousands of years in the past. Like once you like wrap your head around that, you're like, okay, so she's also the reason of her existence here, but was the cause of it too. Like
a Doctor Who
and
situation.
that's some Terminator shit. That's some
Terminator.
like
Seriously.
John Connor is born because in the future he sends Kyle Reese back to protect his mother, but also becomes her father. Right. Wait, his own father. Like, right. How Kyle Reese, like existence in Terminator.
Right.
Let me try to explain it again.
No, the
'Cause
timeline is
even
long.
in Terminator, it's confusing. You get it, right?
No. For a
How-
second, I just thought you meant some dude banged his mom, but I was at a different. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Don't steal
I'm
my
actually-
shtick. That's the only reason I'm here, Code. Don't do that.
Well, I'm kind of wondering now if it's a Doctor Who situation, because that would explain like the fact that she keeps encountering logs of versions of herself that she hasn't yet met, and the Doctor Who thing being where he jumps around so much in the timeline that a lot of times he'll encounter himself or live through events that he hasn't yet experienced, but he's past those events in the timeline, so he can see the effects of them without having lived through them. So it's the kind of thing where like it when she comes up upon her bodies that are extremely old, or if she comes up upon the logs where she has clearly already gone crazy, is the theory that we play through the entire game and then there is a portion we don't play significantly after that actually is what she moved through towards the game or through the game itself.
Mhm.
So in that case, like maybe they are planning on having like a descent of Celine and have more games, and then as they tell that story, what we played through here will make a lot more sense. Because that'd be cool.
Maybe.
I don't think I think they have no interest in wrapping this story up, because it essentially is wrapped up in the end. Like the story is concluded. The fact that throughout all the different versions that Celine tries to change or adjust what happens, whether or not whether she, with her being the astronaut, with her dealing with the grief, initially going on the mission, not having any memory of the mission, like coming to all these conclusions, the ultimate story is that this is her home. This is what she was always meant to do. Like this is ultimately her existence is that there is no escape from this. And it's her acceptance of that. And that's why that final log is like really like, well, shit. Okay.
But to get to that point of acceptance, wouldn't she have to live through the events that she did, like meaning to do it? Like in the end of the actual game, she warps into the astronaut's body when it leads the car off the side, but she didn't mean to do that at all, we don't think. I mean, didn't she raise her hands to protect against the car, showing that it's a defensive maneuver? Like, wouldn't she have to get through to the point where she felt she needed to break free of the cycle before coming to the point of accepting it?
I don't think she it's hard to say. I'd have to watch it again. I don't think she warps into the astronaut as much as a memory of why it happened and who the astronaut is. It's the final reveal of the game is essentially that Celine was the astronaut the whole time.
Right.
But what version of her was that? Was it one of the crazy versions that she's been talking about? Or does it go way further back than, a perceived 63 years in the future, thousands of years in the past, to the point where, like, once again, time is going forward and then back and then progresses and then goes back again and does all these different things because our character is trying to do whatever she can to get out of this, and becoming the astronaut is seemingly like an answer to it, right? Why she dresses up as the astronaut, like how she has the memories from before. It's all things that like you'd really have to look into the logs and a lot of the interpretive like Greek mythology stuff, which is sprinkled throughout the whole damn game. And I even haven't gotten through all of it. But I think what the game really tries to set up for is the fact that our main character doesn't have the answers and is seemingly setting up for more questions. And when she gets the answers, it's like, it's not satisfying. Like it's not. It's like deep and disturbing. Like why would this stuff have happened? To an acceptance of the grief, to an acceptance of her existence, to an acceptance of being like returning to the planet constantly.
So kind of like her throwing her mother off at the end when she tried to kind of pull her back into that. I definitely I definitely like that interpretation. I think that has. I think the biggest thing for me is not that I would even disagree with it. It's just my want for not only more gameplay, but the want to meet that Celine, to take that journey through seeing what happened, to meet the Celine that fired the gun instead of the one that was surprised that it went off. to
For
meet
sure.
the one that recorded those logs and to get that journey of acceptance. I feel like there's so much more to this story that could have been told through like
And I think
subsequent
the way
histories and subsequent stuff. And they still could have kept it super murky and weird. But
yeah, because
yeah,
I think
it
the
all
way
comes
like
down to just wanting to
Hades,
beat this game like 10 times. I just wanted to beat
the
it
way
10 times.
Hades handled
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a Returnal story is honestly like way more.
Dude,
Like we're gonna look into these characters, we're gonna develop their lore,
Totally.
you're gonna meet them constantly, you're gonna go through here and there. But the only character that Celine interacts with is the multiple versions of herself.
right.
So
Very true.
and the fact that the game has like a hard end, like it literally is like we have roguelite aspects in here, but it's not really a roguelite. Like
Yeah.
it really isn't. It ends. Like the game is supposed to be over. You can keep going through and building like new builds and stuff like that and try to beat it as fast as possible. But once you get through it, you realize that, man, you drop like 20, 25 hours into the game or something like that, and it's pretty much like done. And you can replay it if you want, but you're not going to get, outside of finding more astrologs and things like that and finding ones that you missed, which will unlock some more stuff. You've gotten what, like 90% of them at least on your first playthrough? Like you've gotten the
If you look
majority
for
of
'em.
story
Yeah.
that the game wants to give you information wise, you know?
Here's the only thing also that kind of drove me crazy about this game. They give you so many cool weapons. They give you so many cool effects you can get on those weapons.
Yeah.
Did you do any of the daily challenges?
I didn't get a chance to know because I was so focused on like just completing story stuff.
Almost every daily challenge has weapons that have rank 3 upgrades on them.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire course of the story,
Really?
not only do you not unlock most of the upgrades, because it is so much more advantageous to pick up weapons that have stuff you've already unlocked, because then you keep working on them. It's like the same error that the Surge 1 had with its skill system. You get locked
Sure.
into these certain things where it's like you're simply underpowered for not using them. But dude, I even went back and played the game after I beat it, just to kind of experiment with other weapons. I never got a single power up on a single weapon to rank 3. And it's like they have a system laid out to give like 50 plus hours of weapon progression in this game, and then they don't give you enough gameplay to do like any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can have
no,
entire-
well,
and
no.
some of the weapon effects later are mind-bogglingly good. They'll like change how a weapon functions, like especially on the minigun thing.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's I think what you mean is no story incentivized gameplay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
because this
That's exactly what I mean.
essentially once you've gone through and you've essentially completed the car key sequence,
Done.
the game boils down to exactly what the developer has done in the past, which is arcade style hyper action shooters like Resogun, daily leaderboards, you know, point scores, time scores. Like that's kind of the thing that they're incentivizing by the time you beat the game. Is that try to get through it as fast as possible and figure out the nuttiest things you possibly can, because we're going to have online stats and things like that for people that want to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was.
it turns into this like big,
doing them.
it's like this big AAA sort of experience, right? With an arcade game. And at the end, it's an arcade game. That's really what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think in a lot of ways, like one of the biggest issues with this game is that Hades came out.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And here's the
because
craziest
you just
part.
look at it and you're like, God, I wish this had all the stuff that Hades had.
Yeah, like I really like, for me, I like the gameplay in this way more than Hades, than just dash whack, right? I think Hades is great because of how the roguelite elements, the mechanics of the game are incredible in Hades. The way you get boons, like the way you modify your character in between a run, like the perfect length of the runs, it's all, in my opinion, that all that stuff is way better than this game, because that game really emphasizes the mechanical roguelite shit, right?
Yeah.
This
yeah.
game doesn't as much. It focuses on like level design, and it goes in on like exploration and all these different things that are not really roguelite stuff, where like you just get random rooms in most roguelite things, but this game wants to give you like crazy secrets and Doom Eternal / Doom 2016 levels, and I'm like, okay, so I'm spending so much time just investigating stuff in this game, and I should be focusing on my run here.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Hades is a lot better. Like the boons in this game aren't really satisfying. They're like mostly detrimental. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, the artifacts.
I always have to like, this bug just to give me a couple of seconds of alt fire cooldown is gonna drop my health or something like that. That's terrible.
Well,
And the boons aren't that satisfying, and that's why it's like those
feel
roguelite
some
elements,
are.
and why I don't think it's a roguelite. It has pieces of it because of the procedural generation of the game.
yeah.
And Hades, since it came out, again, is like a Greek mythology game, and so is this. It's so bizarre. Like
Those guys,
like they were
suck.
being made at the same time. They didn't even know about each other. Like this is so bizarre.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I do feel that like when it comes to the roguelikeness of the game, when it comes to like the upgrades and the artifacts and the malignant corruption bullshit, like some of those are like, if you get the adrenaline, you heal whenever you have an adrenaline meter unlocked. It's like the best upgrade in the game. I got that on like my second or third run, and I got all the way to like the midpoint of the game because you just never
And the
can
best,
die.
the best parasite that you can get is the parasite that will cause 2 malfunctions but prevents death.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, well, preventing death is always better no matter how many malfunctions I have. So whatever, I'll just take that.
Yeah. And so
like every other parasite comes with huge, like usually detriments that are like considering how influential parasites can be, they're not like chaos boons where it's just like, oh, I can just get rid of this and then I'm good to go, you know?
Yeah.
No, they mess you up.
Yeah, I think that's where, from a gameplay perspective, I have issues with the game, and also what Ko was saying in terms of the gun stuff. In that run right there, you were using I forget the name, but it's like the LMG style thing, which I haven't seen anyone use any other type of gun, at least in the later levels, because the portal aspect to that gun is just like, to beat the game.
It's very good.
I just kept resetting until I got that gun. Because everything else was like playing it on hard mode until I got Portal, and then I was like, oh, okay.
Hollow Seeker is just is easily the most accessible gun, and the reason it's good is because Portal 1 is really good, and then Laser Portal 2 is even better.
Well, there's also
like,
a Portal
super
turret. You can get 2 portals on one gun.
There's a super.
Yeah.
You start looking, there's like a web shotgun that's like a pylon, and you shoot one pylon and it's okay.
That's what I use.
But then you get one that makes a web.
Yeah.
And then it makes a whole net. And then you can make this huge net that just protects you. And then you could also increase, if you do use it enough, make that thing do twice as much damage. And the enemies are just, they fly it and use, like they're hitting like a bug hitting a screen. And they just die. I'm like, this is busted, dude. Holy crap.
Effectively, it just turns into a dot.
If you don't level it up, you don't get that.
Yeah, and that's my issue, right? I never saw what a shotgun can do because I never used it more than 3 seconds because I'm not fighting some guy flying around with a shotgun. Like, fuck you, I'm not even going to waste my time.
The high-end shotgun ability, if every pellet of your shot hits an enemy, it doesn't count as ammo going down. So on a big enemies towards the end of the game, you just sit there with your shotgun, and their health just melts away because you're doing high damage shots anyway. So yeah, and it's crazy.
Yeah. But with all that said, like I felt like it was definitely skewed, like depending on what gun you found in like area 2 or 3, most of the time it was going to be a Hollow Seeker. Those are the guns that most people use to like finish the game. And no one even got to see, like someone in my game said, oh yeah, I used a pistol and like got all the unlocks for a pistol and it was super broken. And I was like, what are you talking about? I hate that gun with a passion for so many reasons. But the game never gave me a chance, just like Ko said, to explore those other guns, which in a lot of ways, I wish you got to like choose your gun at the start of a run.
Well, there's
funny
so gimmicks.
Dude, I would have liked to see rank up perks, but don't make them available. It would have been so much more interesting if every time you got a gun, it had 3 random perks, and then you could level them up or unlock them for future stuff. But the fact that every gun starts with 1 perk, and you have to unlock that to get the next perk, and then you have to unlock that to get the next perk. Again, it locks you into guns, so it makes the variety. And then also, you never get to see how good a gun can get without slogging through the gun sucking for a while. And it's kind of like, I sort of understand that, but. And maybe that's the point of the dailies, is they wanted to kind of show you what souped up weapons are.
Force you into using weapons to unlock stuff, yeah.
But it would have been so much more fun to kind of tease people a little bit by making those like be totally random unlocks. So you get a gun, you've never used one of the gun Max was talking about with the net, and then all of a sudden you find in a back room after a hard boss fight, a version of that gun with that on it and double damage. You're just like, dude, I need to use this more. This is amazing. You know, like that cool, like, aha moment. You don't really get that, unfortunately.
Yep.
Would be really cool to add that in.
I agree. Well, since time is a factor on the show, and I do want to get to Resident Evil 8. The final question I'll ask, is this worth $70? I said last week how much I hate this question. I'm still going to ask it because I think it's an interesting conversation point. Do you recommend this for $70 if you've got a PS5 with nothing to play on it? Which maybe is a different argument altogether.
I mean, to me, like, yeah, like I had a 30-hour-ish experience just getting all the endings, to the point where like my final run I was at like 4:00 in the morning and I'm like, I want some resolution to this. And funny enough, the game does not give you any resolution to anything.
No.
So I was like, just one more run, man. And I skipped all the bosses and went straight to the end. And my run took like 40 minutes. And I was like, damn, now that I know like all these enemy weaknesses and I know exactly what to do and where to go, geez, dude, you just like the complaint of the game being way too long, or runs taking way too long is one thing. I think there's a genuine conversation to be had about the checkpointing / saving of the game. I think there's like a genuine, like, okay, between like developer vision and some of like the really aggressive, put your system into rest mode shit. I think that stuff is kind of like, so you're already telling us that you can save, but we have to save and not play any other games. Like that's sort of whack. So I think that's the biggest, like, as far as me personally, the biggest issue the game has is the way they want the player to commit to these long ass runs. Like if you search a zone and you're going to get through biome 1 through 3 on your first run, that shit can take you 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get like a lot of upgrades and stuff, and after biome 3, boom, you're back to nothing because that's essentially your mid-game checkpoint where, oh, now you're going to repop here in the past / future, you know, whatever. So for me, that's like the biggest, weirdest detriment of the game is funky saving, checkpointing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I loved it because of like really storytelling stuff is big. World building, I think, is fantastic. And I love the enemies, dude. I just love playing this game. Like, I just want to like go through and dodge shit and shoot enemies. This game has some of my favorite bosses I think I've ever, like the boss fights and the music and the way all that stuff is utilized. Like, what's that?
The fourth
I think it's the third boss fight where you're having to like go on the platforms that are falling around. And you're
That's
having
best
cool,
boss fight.
dude.
Yeah. That was best boss fight.
And then you get the fight with Hyperion, which is the dude on the organ. And the whole level is building up to this haunting music that you just have no idea. Like, what the hell is this? And you climb the mountain as it's getting louder and louder. I'm like, this is so fucking cool. And then the fight is just incredible. I'm like, Jesus, like every time I fired up the game, I came back like every day. I'm like, this game is so fucking cool. I can't even like, I just loved every aspect of that. So much less there was still things on guns I had never even seen before. Like in my final run, I was still coming across like crazy stuff. And even though like, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of like super story incentivized elements, it's hard for me to like not recommend this for people that just love really precise action games. Like if you enjoy even like Devil May Cry or, you know, shooters in general, it's top notch, dude. Like the fact that they created a third person shooter and it feels this good and it responds this well and the enemies are so cool. Like I think it's some of like the best industry stuff that has come out in a long time.
Yeah.
Max, are you going to go back and keep playing this game?
I want to 100%. Yeah.
Yep.
It came out like the worst time though. Like with everything else, like I was kind of pissed that I had to play it. I had to try to get through the main story stuff so fast. Like I'm just beating RE8 right now, and I want to do another Returnal run and check out like daily challenges.
Oh,
so I mean,
didn't
similar to
realize
like
that.
Resogun, you know?
Yeah. For me, I would love a reason to go back. I think is my biggest deal, right? Like whether that's in the form of DLC or what. And I think you kind of nailed it at the very start of the discussion in terms of wanting a bow on top of everything. My favorite part of the game is after you beat the third boss and you go back to the planet and it's like, oh my God, like I just lived my life and died. And I was like, that's fucking cool. Then I get to the end of the game and they're like, enjoy. You're like, no, what what the fuck?
That first ending is like, what? That first ending is the epitome of Dark Souls guy. I'm on fire. Credits. You're like,
Yeah.
what? Like, excuse me? What the? Excuse me? What is going on?
I would
It
have.
makes no sense.
God damn it! It made me. I always think about whenever I think about this game, whoever the writer is for the story was in like the pitch meeting, and they're like, "All right, pitch us the story," and he gets to the end, and then he just stops talking. They're like, "Are you gonna?" Nope, that's it. Good luck. That's the story. Finish it. And that's how I felt playing this game.
I gotta
they
say,
just stopped
Matt,
talking.
I gotta say though, I hope to God that you are dead wrong. I hope that you are dead wrong and they are not done telling this story.
Oh,
because
yes,
I want a Returnal 2, I want a Returnal 3, I want DLCs for each of them because I am somebody who needs more of that story. It helps me so much to have a carrot on the end of that stick. And I loved the gameplay of this game and I wanted to play it so many more times. So I really, really hope that this is not the end we'll see about this. Because man, it's so much fun to play. I just want to keep playing it. I want to keep playing stuff like it, you know.
I hope it's
I'd love to
successful.
actually know about the story. I
hope House Marquee, like, it is successful. But to me, there's no way. To me, I do not see there being like a Returnal 2 of some kind, and it being about Celine. It'll be like another weird situation with a character that has to like come back to life for some reason or something like that.
Yeah.
It'll probably be separate from Atropos. It might not even be space. It might even be like Gothic or something like that. It might be something completely different in Alien or not even sci-fi, maybe fantasy. Like, I see the gameplay is so good that I don't feel that they should drop this in any way. But I would definitely be curious if they did DLC for this, like where they would go with it, you know?
Yeah, I mean they can go a lot of places. So
maybe Atropos isn't limited to one planet.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
a couple times in my chat, people have asked about. You said you're going to mention something about Xbox fixing problems for this game.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the funniest thing: Returnal's biggest issue, in my opinion, is the way it handles its saving, and the fact that if you close the application and you're halfway through a run, you're screwed. You wake up back at the crash site.
Yeah.
So the solution to that is rest mode, that you put the game into rest mode. But what happens if you put it into rest mode? You can't play other games. However, there's another little video game system that if you do put a game into rest mode, you can play other games and still enjoy the rest of your system, and it's an Xbox. So the Xbox is literally the answer to this game's saving problem.
Yeah. Also, if you
Weirdly enough, it worked fine for me on the PS5.
I mean,
I used the rest
for me, it
thing like
wasn't
3 days in a row, and it worked fine.
There was one issue I had where I was in the middle of a run and an update came out, and I didn't realize I had no updates on. Threw me back to the start. I was at the last boss. I was like,
it got real scary last week.
Okay.
After the show, because I lost like 2 runs or something to the auto update, kind of what you just experienced, or said you just experienced, Max. They put out a patch like right around the time of last week's drop frames, and I jumped in to continue playing it. And like 30 minutes after that patch came out, they're like, oh, this can actually just corrupt your entire save, and like you'll have to start over.
there was a lot of issues on week 1, dude. There was like 3 patches,
So I just didn't
and
play.
the last one was like a save corruptor. It was like, oh Jesus, dude. So there was definitely detrimented by, once again, a component that they built into the game about returning, where they're actually, the game is fucked up because of how an issue can impact their what might be a creative decision, you know?
Yeah. So that stuff definitely sucked last week, but it seems like most of those patch issues have been fixed, so it's fine to play. At least when it comes to the patches causing issues. There's still the issue of you having to go into rest mode to like quote save a run. But as long as they're not pushing out updates, then hopefully it won't like.
This doesn't seem like seems like a shady situation just in general.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's switch gears and talk about Resident Evil 8. Max, I thought you had finished it. Have you not finished Resident Evil 8 yet?
I finished hardcore run, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you have finished it. Do we do a discussion, spoiler conversation on this as well? How do we feel about spoilers in RE8?
Too new?
I would have to. For that one, I'd have to take my headphones off.
I think you can talk about it.
We could talk about it without going into
non-spoiler.
like final act stuff and things like that.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's
Zeke, how
probably
far in are you? Which boss were you on last?
I have not picked it up yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have not played it at all yet because the way my channel kind of works is I have to, wait for the hype level to go like to an acceptable low so that I can, come in and actually get some viewership for me playing it.
Isn't that a wonderful,
Gotta wait a little
delicate
bit.
ballet on Twitch,
Yeah.
it is.
So yeah, I'm gonna give it a couple of weeks until everybody's had a chance to play it, watch it, do whatever, and then you can come on over, whatever. But yeah, I have not picked it up. I wanted to play it on release. I really did. I did not know that so many people were getting it a day early, getting to play it a day early. And honestly, business wise, that totally just tanked my plans because I was gonna play it like right on release with everybody. We're gonna all out of the gate at the same time, but I just wasn't in the know as far as that goes. So I woke up that day and I went, "Fuck." Okay, now what? And I went, hey, you know what? I got Demon Souls. Let's play Demon Souls. That's what I'm doing.
So I got a question for JP and Co. Since you guys have completed it, and this is not a spoiler. Did you guys find that last damn fish?
So I watched full playthroughs of it. I didn't play it. A little different. I'm more unique than Zeke, but
That damn fish, dude.
I don't think I looked.
And I found out that it's behind a spot of the game where you're locked out from getting it, and I'm like, I got everything except one fish
sucks.
because you couldn't go back for it. Oh my god.
I think I missed a little group of fish in my run actually, because I ended without getting the final upgrade. So I think I actually missed a little bit of fish.
I literally needed. My chat said the exact same thing. They needed one fish, a singular fish for like the final upgrade of everything. And everyone, so many people are like, I was the same way. I couldn't find that damn fish. Couldn't find that fish. Everyone was like, I'm like, really? Like, where is this thing hidden? And apparently it's before you change the world, right? In a big situation, you change the world. So if you go progress the story, you can't go back and get it. I'm like, and it's really hidden too. I'm like, mother Pfeiffer. I didn't get the speed upgrade because of it. It's like, oh my god.
Damn.
So you missed fish. Sucks. In terms of, I'll be very careful of also watching the video footage here because even though I have not played it, I have watched multiple full playthroughs of it. So I'll be careful not to show anything too crazy. But just viewers beware, there is footage playing. It is a Resident Evil game that is, story driven in a lot of ways. So I'll do my best. But with all that said, Max, as the Resident Evil fanboy in a lot of ways, I feel like that term's got such a negative connotation to it these days. But as the Resident Evil fan, super fan, where do you kind of put Resident Evil 8? Where is it at on the pantheon of Resident Evils?
I loved it. In the end, I thought it was a better game than RE7. So that's probably one of the best comparisons you could make as to the game it's very similar to. But it's funny because for me, and this is what I have to describe it as to my chat. RE7 is like a roller coaster where at the start they have those magnets and they shoot your ass, right? So you go really fast at the start. And you're like, whoa, this ride's crazy. But by the time the ride's kind of over, it starts to get slower. And the end of it's okay now, and then it's kind of done, right? And that really rears its head at the end of RE7 when you have to go through the boat and then revisit the boat again in the past and the present. It's like, okay, we just wrap this up. And then the ending is, it's like, okay, it's pretty decent. But man, that first part is amazing. To me, RE8 is like the exact opposite. The beginning part's like a going up the roller coaster hill, and you're like, okay, there's some stuff happening. All right, we're going to the castle, and then at some point, like right when you do that, it's cresting and it's getting better, and you're seeing this village, and you can go to all these places, and then boom, it goes down, and the game gets crazy. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's funny how RE7 is like front loaded with amazing stuff, and to me, RE8 kind of is like mid to back loaded with like damn, this game has got all this stuff you can do, and it's really fun, and the bosses are really, really enjoyable. And yeah, it's like a stark contrast. So I in the end enjoyed it more than RE7. Biggest detriment the game has, and this is an actual flaw in my opinion, no VR support.
Yeah.
Like, VR was such a huge part of RE7, man, like a transformative kind of experience. And you almost have to like separate the VR from the game. But if this game had VR, there would legit be moments where I'm just throwing this shit off my head. I'm done. Can't handle it.
Yeah. I definitely think that it was, in a lot of ways, like RE8 is a greatest
Da-da.
hits. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
Can't handle it. Done. Get me out of here.
It's a greatest hits of Resident Evil games because like the opening is like RE4. The segment you just mentioned, subtly, is like PT, right? Like in a little like RE7 in some ways. The end is the end, which is a different game entirely. In a lot of ways, like it was, but it all seems to flow well. That's being said, like all of that, everything I just said is positive, right? Like it seems to flow into all those different things very, very well. I thought in terms of just like watching all the different playthroughs I did, or that I watched rather. So it was cool to see. And it definitely had I think the other question a lot of people saw that I saw in streams was like, where's it on the scare meter? As someone who is not super into scary games, I feel like this was definitely a step down from 7, but like the part Code just mentioned, for example, still kind of ranks up there and like, kind of fucked up, right? Like a little bit terrifying in a lot of ways. But it's more playable in the sense that it had a little bit of like RE2 scare for me, where it's like, yeah, this place is kind of fucked up, but I could still move forward and shoot things, right? And like they put NPCs to kind of like ease the stress of certain situations and like bring that stuff down. So I thought in terms of just watching it, I thought the like scare meter was fine. Like it was on the perfect level, the entire thing. As people that have obviously played it and obviously been more active in all the other RE8 games, where do you guys put it in like the horror vibe, the horror rating? Where would you rank it? Co or Z, yeah, or Max. Sorry.
Go ahead, go.
Okay. So for me, I felt like okay. First of all, RE8 definitely has its moments. There are times where I was disgusted. There are times when it was jump scary. There are times when it was dada. It was definitely a situation where there are moments where it is definitely a very scary game. But the actual loop, like what I was doing in the game, for me, an 8 felt a lot more adventure-y in a good way, because I really like that part of it. I would say this game is more adventure horror than I would say Resident Evil 7 is horror. Like in Resident Evil 7, you're kind of like trapped with the enemy like almost the whole time. You have this ever-present fear that is always kind of there. You keep killing this guy and he keeps coming back to life. And and not really including, like Max said, the last part, which kind of loses some of itself in the last part. That first like 2/3 of the game, you're constantly feeling like there's this ever-present threat always there. Where in this game, it feels more structured like an adventure game. There's hubs. There's times when it's kind of open world and you can explore where you want. There's like this nice jovial vendor character that kind of seems like your bro for most of the game.
He's just video game man.
Yeah, he really is. Like I have some very interesting theories about who that dude is, because he drops a couple like little hints that are kind of interesting. But that being said, I felt like there was times in this game when I wasn't scared at all, and I was just having a good time exploring. Not like I'm trapped and need to find as many items as I can because I'm going to die. Just more like, hey, let's like, oh cool, this is for this puzzle, and let's go up here, and then oh, here's a scary part. Okay, dealt with that. All right, let's keep exploring and keep doing the thing and enjoying the environments. It was a different experience. I do think it would feel, just like Max said, a lot different in VR. It drives me crazy that they released this game on PC without VR support. Because one thing that still bugs me to this day is they released RE7 on PC without VR support, because it would have looked so good on a PC with VR.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope, I've heard there was a pretty big backlash from people saying you really should have made this VR. So I'm hoping that we see future Resident Evils kind of take more advantage of that, especially if they keep planning synchronous releases on PC and console. And by that time, hopefully we'll have PS4's next gen.
New. Well, we also have new VR, which we also just got some like leaks about. The kind of sad thing is that it feels like that new VR thing might be right on the horizon, like the crazy new PlayStation VR. And this came out like a little too early. Like it just didn't line up with the marketing efforts, if not release scheduling of Capcom, if not Sony. But RE7 did. And the funny thing about RE7 is that it really seemed like that game was actually designed with VR in mind. Like the 100%. Whole game was made for it. But weirdly enough, based on some infamous leaks that happened over the past year with Capcom, learned a lot about some of the financial efforts and initiatives that they had. RE7 being a first-person game seems like it was a VR effort, but it wasn't. Like the VR added to the experience was because of just an extra budget from Sony that like, hey, let's make this our big VR game, make a VR mode out of it. And right now, why doesn't this have VR? Because no one was going to give Capcom the budget to turn it into a VR game because it just didn't line up with any other efforts. Sony was not ready to release their thing, so it just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, RE4 is about to get it on a completely like it's the weirdest situation where it's like this game should have the VR, but you're remaking RE4 for VR. Like,
well, they got the money from elsewhere, right? Like exactly what you just said.
And that's the gimmick is that they got the budget. The budget was provided from somewhere else this time. Like before, it was Sony because they had their new VR experience, so RE7 seemed perfect for it because it was first person. The stars kind of aligned there, but. Well, it seemed that RE is first person because of VR. I don't think it is. I think that's just the way Capcom was approaching this stuff. And if RE7 and RE going forward was designed for VR, this would have been VR 100%, and it's not.
Yeah.
So that bugs me because like RE7 VR is like a transformative, still probably one of the best VR games there is. So how the hell did they not? Like bugs me. It bugs me hard. It's like one of my biggest nitpicks of the game is that there's no VR.
What's kind of wild to think about is, it obviously Sony could have had a better VR system out by now. I wonder if they're purposefully delaying their VR experience specifically because of the console shortage and what we were talking about earlier. I wonder if they want to make sure that the VR hype, when it actually does release, is in an environment where everyone that has a PS5 has the ability to buy one.
I wonder if that's a good guess.
Because there is the next gen VR coming out. I mean, that stuff was talked about in this past week. So you might be right about that, Co. Sony's all about making you go back and play their old games, right? So why not play it in a new way with the brand new PSVR? Yeah.
A little bit of infamous Capcom double dipping.
It'd be nice to go through RE8 in like new PlayStation VR. That'd be cool, but it's not the first run.
True. You'll know everything.
90% that experience is turning a corner and having no idea what's around it.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll bring back the guy from the RE7 DLC in a special VR.
Like the Joe DLC? Oh, man.
They're going to probably do DLC for this, right? So there's probably some.
The controllers are the actual fists?
That'd be so sick.
Oh, my God. I'd be all over that. I would be all over that.
Not necessarily. I mean, I think the marketing for this game is an interesting talking point only because I feel like the internet latched on to the tall, the memes, you know what I'm talking about.
One part of the game.
Yeah. The internet latched onto that, right? So how much do you think like was their entire marketing approach shifted in real time as soon as that happened? Because
1000%.
in a lot of ways, that's like the first 10% of the game. Like it's not even the
1000%. Yeah, and it was a good call.
Yeah,
honestly, it was a good idea for them to shift all of their possibly international marketing efforts around that part of the game because it just captivated the internet by storm suddenly.
Yeah, it was
even
interesting.
The devs said in an interview that they were like, we had no idea. Like they said we had no idea people would get this attached to this character.
Yeah. It was.
I remember seeing legit anger in a Reddit post, like a dude complaining about a refund or wanting a refund because he killed her so early, and it's just like,
wow.
all
Okay.
right, dude.
I didn't see that, but sure. I guess that makes sense.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I got to close the VOD again here as we're approaching more spoiler stuff. I'm trying to think in terms of anything else. Resident Evil 8. Like, obviously, I think both of you will agree that people should go out and play it, right? Like, it's worthy of the purchase.
Oh, yeah.
It's worthy of.
It's a great first Resident Evil 2. Like, I'm sorry, it's a great first Resident Evil as well.
Right.
If you wanted us to try out like a Resident Evil and you have never seen any of them, there's an attachment and clearly story related to RE7. It's a continuation of RE7's story. The game does its best to get you in there, but I mean, really, it sets up its characters and it sets up its story just fine within the world it's making in RE8. And there's so much variety, like so many points. They answer so many questions from the previous game where not enough enemy types, right? There is too many Japanese players actually complained about it being too scary. So they moved the scares to different areas and segmented them really specifically and went more for tension for a lot of the game, right? But didn't also eliminate the scares. So I don't know, like so many times when I was playing this game and things are happening around my character, if not happening to you, I'm just like, I would just scream Disneyland or Universal Studios. Like I feel like I'm on a ride, man. Like, and that's probably one of the best ways to describe this game is that you feel like you're going through haunted house, like haunted mansion, haunted maze, like one after the next, after the next, after the next. It feels like you're taking on a theme park kind of experience of just like horror shit in different ways, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And not only that, when talking about the value, they have an entire mercenary mode that comes back in. It's
how
actually
is that?
pretty fun.
It's good.
I played
good.
most of the first maps. Had a good time with it. It was cool. I know some people that have done the trip double S'ing and getting the lightsaber and stuff, which is kind of fun. There's also a new difficulty that unlocks after the game if you didn't get the DLC. I think it unlocks first if you get the DLC. But the new difficulty, Village of Shadows, they don't mess around in that difficulty. Like they actually change around like when enemies get to the player and like, you know, when they spawn on the maps and stuff. And it is significantly more difficult, even if you start with the inventory from the end of your last game. So there's a lot of stuff there for people that want to keep playing.
It feels like it's meant to be like your new game plus. Like hardcore has some like past one part at the beginning in hardcore, which is like everyone's talked about it. Like there's one sequence in the first 10% of hardcore that is just like, yo, okay, is the whole game gonna be like this? And then no, like the rest of the game is like to me, hardcore feels like a perfect difficulty. Once you get through like the later 80-90% of the game, it's like perfect.
Yeah.
So but that Village of Shadows difficulty is the equivalent of a madhouse in RE7. They change stuff. Like we're gonna like in RE7, they change where traps are, they change where items are. Like you just don't get things in the same order anymore. So it can feel like, oh god, like which game am I playing now? And even if you have upgraded items, it's like it most likely is like the perfect new game plus situation is to try out Village of Shadows after.
I will say one thing that one of the biggest takeaways that I've watched people play through 5 or 6 times now is I felt like it was the biggest evolution that I've seen in the idea of a jump scare in media in like, I don't know, 20 years. It was a delayed jump scare that happens in one particular part early in the game. And I've never seen that happen in a video game. And it made me more fearful of horror games than I've ever been because the developers are learning and it's fucked up what they're doing.
Wait, so there's a couple of good ones. Is it the one that involves you? I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, how do I?
Does it involve a window?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I went. Ah! Oh, that was awesome! Like it scared the shit out of me, and I was like, "Oh, that was great." Yeah,
it's
good
so
stuff.
interesting to watch people react to it because it doesn't lock you in terms of movement, right? And so you either see it or you move and you just hear blah, and you're like, "Oh, well, that was weird. What was that?" And I've seen people react to it in real time, be like, "Oh my god, that's fucking terrifying," or I've seen people just hear and be like, "Well, that was fucking stupid." And so,
and the best part
crazy
is if it's a part I'm thinking of, there's stuff there to like draw you in.
Yes.
So it's like
yes.
So you're
become
looking at one
focused-
thing.
You become focused on the stuff, and then it hits you, and it's like,
Yep.
oh yeah,
That's probably the I think that's actually the happiest jump scare, right? Because most of the time jump scares are just like, oh, you piece of shit, you got me.
Yeah.
And this one, I got jump scared and I started laughing because of how effective that was. I was like, that was really good. Like they really got me.
It's the first time I've seen a horror game developer like evolve the jump scare, and I was immediately like, oh fuck. They're getting smarter.
They're having fun with this stuff now.
Yeah, they're learning, right? And that was a little bit scary. I guess before we move on completely, flaws, any like glaringly wrong things with this game for you guys? Anything that just like, I think is reprehensible?
Inventory system. So weird with the space and the clicking and the shift, and like it could have been so much easier. And you left click for the menu instead of right click. Like, oh my lord, there were so many times I misclicked in the inventory. It was very strange. Not a deal breaker, of course, but it was weird. And the FOV slider not being there.
I describe it as janky Resident Evil mechanics as being the fear. So the fear in Resident Evil is like tank controls in old games. Like why doesn't my character control like normal? No, that's the fear. You control like a tank because it's scary.
Yeah.
You're like, well, my character, this is a locked camera angle. My character can see what's in front of it, but I can't. So if I turn the corner that I'm blindly turning, I just get grabbed. That sucks. That's the fear. And this game definitely has the fear. It's the POV. The how tight the camera is on everything, dude. It is so like you're looking through this little window, it feels like. And to me, the fear part of it actually made that opening sequence pretty dang nauseating for me, especially on hardcore when you have to do it like several times and you're looking around and zipping and trying to just like gather the situation.
Yeah.
I was having so much more fun with the game on day 2 on the PC version, and an FOV patch came out and I just brought that shit out 15%. Oh, I could breathe now. Like it was so much easier on my eyes.
Was it a patch or was it a mod?
No, it's a mod.
Oh, okay.
It's a mod that allows you to adjust the FOV, and it also gets rid of this game has an extreme vignette around the edge that really like brings it to a center visual, and it's ridiculously dark, and you can actually make a slider for the vignette. And to me makes the game just look better. It's weird. Like the POV just makes the game actually a wider POV makes the game look better, and the vignette allows you to see more details. So, once again, mods like saving some parts of games for me.
Yeah, if you played on the console, you're just kind of fucked. I saw it.
You're just screwed.
I watched a PS5 playthrough of it, and like having watched the PC playthrough first, it was like, what the how this is not the same game. This is awful to look at in a lot of ways. Ko, did you use the FOV mod or did you play it vanilla?
I didn't.
Okay.
I was a little paranoid because sometimes those can like cause weird issues with cutscenes and stuff like that. Thankfully, the FOV sucked, but I have definitely played worse locked FOV. There's sometimes FOV where I'll get like a little bit of a headache or motion sickness or something like that, and it's not that bad. But it's strange to me that they didn't give options for FOV, especially in this day and age. Like it was very weird that they didn't give options for that. I was a little disappointed. Kind of a step back in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Did RE7 have FOV options? I don't remember.
It did.
I didn't play a lot of the PC version. I actually played console because of obviously, VR. But yeah, I'm not even too sure if the previous game did.
They might have.
It did. Yeah, Chad is saying it did. How weird is that shit?
Well, they probably included that in terms of like people getting sick from VR, and so they wanted the option in case it's better for other people, one way or the other. Maybe. Right? But also just add a fucking FOV thing, right? Like the modders did it in a day, put it in the game. it's not. Yeah, they should have done that. Yeah, cool. Okay, I think that's RE8. We'll save the end game, the ending discussion. I guess. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, Max. Ending, good, bad. Where did you sit on it? Okay, Max with the bug-eyed thumbs up.
Oh, dude,
yeah,
big time.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's some.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I think it's one of Resident Evil's best stories.
Dang. Okay. All right. Strong words.
For me, make sure to watch after the credits.
There you go. Okay.
Cool.
That is RE8 in a nutshell. We might discuss some more next week as well, because I think Dan S Gaming is going to be coming on the show. I know he's a huge RE fan as well. Last but not least, in the final here 10 minutes, I do want to throw some Guilty Gear conversation in. Max, this weekend is you got to help me out, open beta, right? Is this the final beta before?
I'm pretty sure this one is going to be open as well.
Okay.
This is going to be largely a stress test because the previous Guilty Gear beta ran into some issues. Servers had to go down because too many people were playing. Long story short, like more people were playing the Guilty Gear beta of the previous, couple months ago than have like ever played Guilty Gear at one single time ever.
Dang.
The awareness of this game is at a much greater height than ever. And there was a lot of weird technical issues. That's definitely a much older Guilty Gear.
Oh.
That's the previous one.
Let's just see if people find out. That's
Xrd. Strive is the new one.
Okay. This was in a video of yours entitled "Is Guilty Gear Strive Too Simple?" But you got footage of the old one. That's why I pulled it up.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Sorry.
I'll find actual footage.
But there was a lot of weird small issues. Like there was no rematching, and that was kind of cumbersome. The lobby system still generally sucks. Like the way they made their lobbies is kind of weird and contrived and looks bad and functionally was bad. So this beta was for the fact that so many people complained about the lobby system and how people actually play against each other. But it's complemented with the fact that Guilty Gear Strive possibly has some of the best net play of a fighting game ever. And that is an extreme optimization of rollback netcode and people in-house that they have that worked on previous games that have a fantastic online infrastructure like Killer Instinct. There's actually ex-Killer Instinct devs that are working on Guilty Gear now. So they've had a lot of expertise to make this happen. And it's funny because this is their first attempt at doing rollback netcode. The whole point of rollback netcode is no matter how far away somebody is in the world, there's no input delay. There's no extreme input delay. And with delay-based netcode, you can be fighting some dude all of a sudden in Europe and you're in California and you're like, oh my God, I'm pressing buttons and they come out like half a second to a second later. This is absolutely awful. I'm just predicting what I have to do instead of actually fighting somebody. With rollback netcode, you don't have to worry about that. It sets the delay to like a finite amount, like maybe 2 or 3 frames. It makes the game completely playable across the world. And of all the matches I played like possibly 250 matches in the previous beta. I think less than 10 were really stuttery or bad. And I was playing people in Japan, in Europe, in Australia. It's incredible. It's so good.
So
any questions so far?
just real quick, just so I understand this. The way they got around the delay was to basically like give everyone a micro delay.
Yes. So so the way rollback netcode works, it's a predictionary system. You're not going to have perfect ping with everyone constantly. And the gimmick of rollback netcode is that it's going to predict what you were doing next if it did not get that proper that input, if there was like a hitch or something like that. And how do they do that? It looks at the last input that came through, and it's like, okay, they were holding forward. The game is going to presume they kept holding forward, right? For if we missed 1/60th of a second, right? Or maybe 2 frames. So we're just going to predict they hold forward. If they didn't, we're going to roll back the animation that they actually jumped. So we're going to go back like a frame or 2, and they jumped instead. So you see them jump. The gimmick with that inherent delay is that that's a buffer window. The 2 to 3 frames of input delay that is just caked into the entire online experience for like everything is like a buffer that it can use to roll back in case something else happened instead. It's a system that is odd and weird. Even the modern Call of Duties, like Modern Warfare, does use rollback netcode in many ways, but this is a different like peer-to-peer system. And Guilty Gear is the first time this developer is actually utilizing it. So all it really boils down to is it allows players to play your fighting game from across the world and only get a certain amount of delay, and it's a very minor amount. It makes the game completely playable, no matter how far someone is. And any other fighting game that doesn't utilize a rollback netcode kind of system is called delay based. And that delay, the worse the connection gets higher and higher and higher to like, oh my God, 10 to 15 frames of delay. This is the issue that games like Dragon Ball FighterZ have. That some other big anime fighting games have this problem where you have to play somebody close to you, and if you don't play somebody close to you, you're just gonna suffer. It's just gonna suck.
It's always been a hurdle for me, right? Like, because I've always wanted to jump in and like learn how to play a fighting game, but I am a streamer, which means I don't go outside or have friends around me.
Sure.
So I just can't learn online because I just get frustrated with lag, right? So
exactly, it's frustrating. It's one of the things that truly drives me insane when it comes to my favorite genre games. It drives me insane. What makes it drive me insane is that this solution has existed for like almost 15 years, right? And developers just through stubbornness, through lack of even understanding of where their player base is and who's playing their game, has never implemented it. So Arc System Works, this being the first game to do it and how well they do it is such a profounding experience that everyone's response to the previous beta was this huge resounding, holy shit, this is amazing. I'm playing anybody and it's running so good. And why is that important for your fighting game to just be able to play anyone across the world? It gives you more chances to go online and not get your ass beat.
That's why I'm excited for it.
And that's the matchmaking thing that makes rollback netcode so important. The more people you can play with, the better a chance you have of getting somebody that is maybe around your skill level. However, if you play a game where you are siphoned to just people that are local, if not in your region, you are effectively lessening the chance and the player pool that you're being exposed to. And you're just going to run into people that have been playing this game for 6 years or something like that, and you're just going to get blown out, right? So it widens the player pool enough where a lot of people were having a great time because in Guilty Gear, they're doing their best to get the players at appropriate skill levels fighting each other. The worst feeling in a fighting game is absolutely getting blown out, and you just have like no idea what's going on or what the hell just happened. Or, in my opinion, a worse feeling in a fighting game is blowing somebody out and feeling like I'm getting nothing out of it. The greatest time is having a good game. The greatest time is a close match with somebody you feel like that is right around your skill level. And that's what they're trying to tackle with Guilty Gear Strive and their rollback netcode. And it worked out pretty dang good in the previous beta.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited to jump in, man.
My June is already full. This is the second game you've convinced me to play. I don't have time for this shit.
Look at it, though. It looks so good. It's crazy.
It's like the Persona 5 UI of fighting games. Like it's so freaking stylish.
If you want to jump in,
that's the best part.
If you want to jump in, Co, at all this weekend, we both are awful at fighting games.
You guys playing each other
I would love to fight you in a fighting game. We could put subs on the line. We could get Betty with it.
I will fight you in this game.
How much practice?
What systems is it on? Is it on PC?
PS5.
PS5. Okay.
Yeah. PS5 and PS4. It is crossplay between both systems.
Yeah.
There will be throwing down.
Yeah.
And the game very much is designed for controller play. In fact, Guilty Gear, since its inception back in the late 90s, was always really good on controller.
So I was gonna
plugging my controller in. That's how serious I am right now.
I was gonna use we didn't talk about this, by the way. I fucking hate the battery life of the PS5 controller, but that's a whole nother conversation. It's fucking dog shit. But I understand why haptics and all that stuff, battery draining, blah blah blah. So I have a like Comba Obsidian or whatever, Max. Should I not use that and use as someone who's not versed with a fight stick? Let's also throw that.
There's a chance you might want to try it. There's a chance it might not work with Guilty Gear on PS5.
Ooh, okay, all right.
Yeah, there's a weird compatibility thing with some arcade sticks where some work and some don't with Guilty Gear, but there's like a warning in the beta that your controller is not compatible with the PlayStation 5 version of Guilty Gear. So you might want to try it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, using a controller is just fine.
Okay.
You gotta use a controller when we fight. None of this unfair advantage BS.
But honestly, it would probably be a detriment.
Alternatively, you can buy me a fight stick.
Dude, they're fucking expensive. You're the one with.
Just get him a $300 fight stick, JP. Come on.
Are fight sticks rare right now? I don't even know if they're hard to get.
I don't think so. Market. No, I don't think they're suffering from the most electronics.
Go. I'll link you I'm not buying you one. I will link you the Amazon fight stick or the Amazon link to
someone in the chat. is saying the Obsidian did work.
Oh,
So
great. Okay.
you might get lucky on that one.
Cool. There you go.
Cool.
Yeah. So, like fighting game scene wise, with the netcode being the thing that like gets people into this, is there a potential for this to just like skyrocket in terms of like player base to sights unseen for like a normal potential like an anime fighting game?
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's like anime fighting games outside of huge franchises like Dragon Ball, these games only usually appeal towards a certain audience, and that's like it. Funny story, and I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. Guilty Gear Xrd was coming out back in 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
And it was revolutionizing the way graphics look in fighting games between like, oh, we're going to go for an anime 2D look, but it's actually 3D. Look at what we're doing with rendering and shading. And it was incredible looking. Game was super fun and felt amazing. Long story short, Guilty Gear Xrd came out. Nobody gave a shit. Game came out and it sold like 90,000 units in the US.
Jeez.
So it didn't perform extremely poorly overseas, but it's pretty clear that a lot of these games require a international audience to sell a lot of copies. And since Guilty Gear was a game that was original, right? Long running franchise that's been around since like the late 90s, but has only appealed towards a certain group. However, everyone became hyper aware of Arc System Works and Guilty Gear a few years back when a little game came out called Dragon Ball FighterZ. And suddenly it looked better than the show. And suddenly it plays crazy and amazing. And somehow visuals are on this next level. And everyone learned about Arc System Works. So most of the games that have come out from Arc System Works that have this visual style, were put on the map. And now this game, with its net play currently, and the fact that it's, trying to simplify Guilty Gear, but also have a lot of crazy mechanics, still being a nutty game, as you can tell, it's still a pretty crazy game.
Yeah.
Is doing its best so that people can jump in and play it. That's at the detest of a big amount of Guilty Gear fans, though, that are really kind of upset with the way that characters seemingly do a lot less, even though some systems are designed still to allow you for a lot of stuff. And even the devs have admitted that they're going through some changes from the previous beta to the launch of the game. We still don't know how it's going to work. But it's appealing towards an audience that is so much bigger than has ever played Guilty Gear before. Like, so many more people are aware of these games when we've been playing them. I started playing Guilty Gear when it was X on the Dreamcast back in like 2001. And that was the same thing. It was set a standard, a definition of how crazy sprite artwork can look in fighting games.
Yeah.
And they've come so far since then, and have done some huge games that I'm so happy for these guys, because they've gone through so much and they've been doing this stuff for so many years, like over 2 decades now. And now people are really starting to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a story mode too?
Oh, yeah.
There is story.
Isn't the story of the series weird as fuck?
There's
the story mode is a story, and it has the characters, but there isn't a lot of gameplay. In fact, most of the gameplay is just pressing X to go to the next scene. Yeah. That was the story for the previous games. You could play arcade modes and get like a unique story thing, but yes, the story mode in Guilty Gear in the previous titles in Guilty Gear Xrd, even when they had an expansion, it's more like a visual novel.
I had chat give me somewhat of a run. Aren't you playing the president right now? This guy.
No.
Okay, that's not the president.
I think that's technically Chip. Chad will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, there is characters in the Guilty Gear lore that are like directly associated with
Chip is the meth addict who became the president.
Dude,
okay, there we go.
I'm digging Sword Girl's aesthetic here. My lord, dude.
She's apparently the most popular character.
She was the most popular character. She was also very easy to play in the previous beta, and she was just very good and very easy to use and very effective. So there was a lot of people playing her.
Yeah. Did Potemkin, the guy that everyone was complaining about, did he get nerfed? Is that
yes?
Been,
well, Potemkin got toned down quite a bit. His jabs were ridiculously fast and huge, and I think he still is doing a lot of damage. It's kind of hard to say because we just have like a small location test in Japan to go off of, but some things are being adjusted, so we really haven't seen it yet. It kind of seems like they're kind of limiting the stuff you can do, but we're kind of hoping that maybe it actually opens up for more things that you can do instead of just taking options away from characters, which is what I hate.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I've been very excited to. I'm every fighting game I say like, all right, this is the one. I'm actually going to put in my time and like learn how to play a fighting game. And then I go online. I do exactly what you said. People experience where I just get my ass beat. And I'm like, oh, people are still very good at fighting games. This sucks.
Yeah.
I don't have anyone that I can like learn with or train with. So I'm done. I'll move on to the next one and hope it's better. Hopefully the netcode solves all that.
I try to encourage people that are like, what is the best time to get into a fighting game? And realistically, it's like you kind of generally say now. Like if you want to get into a fighting game, just get into it now because it's going to be better now than it is later.
Yeah.
But in like a super rooted reality, the best time to play a fighting game is when it is new. When it is technically its most expensive, which is funny. Like you could wait a year and get the ultimate version and all the characters and like stuff like that, and it'll be cheaper. But realistically, when a fighting game is new in that first month, there are so many people to play with. There are
Like an MMO.
exponentially more chances of you getting those matches that are going to be fun to play with when people are still learning the game and figuring it out with you.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm excited for this weekend. Hopefully, I will mention to chat, it is open beta on PS4 and PS5. So if you are interested in playing anything you're seeing on screen, if you want to play a soul bad guy, you can do that. You can play a soul bad guy. I think that's who Max is playing right here, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Are you a bad guy main?
I am actually a Leo main. He is by popular regard the most unga bunga gorilla character in fighting game history. He is like a spinning gorilla that just screams and roars and goes in. And Guilty Gear is a game series that has always been very encouraging of extremely offensive play. So and Leo is like the epitome of that. Guilty Gear is a game that is so offensive focused that if you defend too much or run away, a mechanic called negative penalty engages and it removes all of your meter. If you don't fight each other, we're going to take away your meter.
The crowd is displeased.
Yes, like the fighting game gods are displeased. You are running away and being too defensive. They're going to take something away from you. So the Guilty Gear is a game that really forces engagement. It forces you to get in and start fighting.
Cool. God, I forgot. I didn't play Zerd, but I definitely was aware of Zerd's graphics and the fact that they've obviously continued that into stuff like this that we're seeing here on the screen.
Biggest detriment of Xrd, it's online. It was the hardest part to come to an acceptance of. It's the most disappointing thing being a fighting game fan when a game is that cool, when a game is that much fun, and you want to rip your face off playing it online.
All right. Well, there's no ripping of faces in this one online, right?
On this one.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Cool. All right. That's it. We got to call it a show because we're already over. Let's do some shout outs. Zeke, would you like to do some shout outs?
Sure.
Poor Zeke.
No, that's right, man. No, I knew like when we scheduled Maximilian to come on the show that his and my like game genres like don't really coincide. Like we don't have a big intersection in our Venn diagram. So I figured this would be a show where I would listen, be entertained, be more of an audience member than a participant. So thanks for being on, Max. Dude, you like my brain was hurting at times trying to keep up.
Thank you for having me. I'm gonna cushion all the brain damage with some gift subs.
Okay. If you want to check me out, I am on every day at 10 a.m. Pacific. Tomorrow I will be restarting actually my Demon Souls. I've got the PS5 finally, and now I'm gonna check out Demon Souls. Still like see if it holds up as my favorite Souls game just because of the impact it had on me. So that's what we're starting up tomorrow. I had a poll out there on on Twitter about which build, and it's really close between Pew Pew, Magic Master, and Heavy Armor Smashy Crush. So we'll see how that plays out. And then after that, we're checking out RE4 after we finish Demon Souls, and then after RE4, we're doing RE8. So we will be it's got a nice chock full schedule coming into June or through May into June. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Cool. Do some shout outs.
As always, a big thank you to JP and Zeke, and a special thank you to Maximilian. Appreciate you taking the time. It was a huge amount of fun today. Lots of great conversation. And now I have 2 more games to play. Thank you all for watching. My name is Ko. Hi. We started Subnautica Below Zero today. Tomorrow is going to be more Subnautica Below Zero, and then the 1.0 patch comes out on Friday, where we're going to get the ending release and everything, and it should be pretty awesome. So I hope you join us for it. We also got more stuff going on this weekend, and we have the cozy stream in the evenings continuing tonight at 6:30 p.m. ET, where we're going to probably play some Hood, some mods first, and then maybe into some Isaac. We'll see. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here as always, and I will see you at 8 a.m. on my stream or next week here with Mr. Dan S. Gaming.
There you go. Max, do some shout outs.
Yo, thank you, JP, so much for having me, and Ko and Zeke. It's always a pleasure. My yearly visits here always end up in very interesting conversations with you guys, and I cannot wait for Junepocalypse to watch Drop Frames takes on everything from E3. That'll be very fun. So you guys should check that out too. But otherwise, I'm on Maximilian_dude on Twitch and playing through a bit more of RE7 until the madness of this week happens, because at the end of this week, once again, Guilty Gear Strive, the beta is out, along with a beta of Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. I'm very much looking forward to that. But usually you can find a lot of action games on my channel, much less fighting games the majority of the time, classics, new ones alike. And if you get a chance, I would highly recommend, if you're looking forward to playing a fighting game or wanting to get into one, Guilty Gear Strive is a very good entry point, and the beta is free coming up this weekend. So check it out if you can. I think it's a wonderful entry point.
Awesome stuff. I'll be doing just that this week. Maybe fighting Ko. I guess. Are we training? Wait, when are we fighting, Ko? When is this going?
We'll figure it out, man.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay. I started to say we got to figure this out. Up until then, I discovered a new game that, for me, Satisfactory, which is probably the worst time to jump into that game because that game is just massive and crazy, but I'll be playing more of it today. And probably playing more of that through Thursday. Friday evening, myself and Jesse Cox are going to be watching the Final Fantasy 14 Fan Fest, which is going down. They're going to be doing 2 hours of reveals and whatnot, and then I think there's a bunch of like concerts and things happening. So we'll at least be checking some of that stuff out late into the night on Friday. I think most of that kicks off at, I want to say like 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. We'll see. I'll have more details on that on Twitter. But then it's most likely just Guilty Gear all weekend long, as I'll be trying to learn that and seeing if I'll stick around for the actual launch next month. Then, yeah, kind of just trotting along until we get to June when every game comes out, it seems. We're also already starting to plan our E3 coverage, so I'll have more details on that in the coming weeks. We will be restreaming and co-streaming as much as we can throughout the E3 weeks, so look forward to that. For now, though, we're out. Next week, we got Dan S. Gaming, also known as Dan's Gaming. We'll be kind of having him on, talking about whatever he's been playing, maybe some more Resident Evil conversation, and we'll see what else he's been up to. For now, though,
his middle name was Sebastian, right? Wasn't it?
Sasha,
Dan
right?
Sebastian Gaming.
has he said what it stands for? I think he always just said it's just S. It's like he's like Q from the Bond series, right?
Star Wars. Yeah.
Or yes, Star Wars. Yes. Also,
Or Harry S. Truman, who didn't have a middle name.
Is that real?
Yeah.
They just gave him I didn't know that. The presidential facts. Zeke's got them all. We'll get more next week.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks everyone so much for watching. Max, thanks so much for coming on. Always a pleasure. We'll go just think about life and Returnals and Greek gods and the loops and all that. And we'll have you back. What's coming out a year from now? What's going to be the big theory a year from now? What are we doing?
God, what are we going to be talking about a year from now?
I don't even know. I can't even like
The
comprehend.
surprise release of FF7 Remake 2.
That's true.
I think we'll be talking about Final Fantasy 16.
Ooh, that also.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that'll be out.
Good.
Okay. We'll definitely
Good.
have you on for that. Maybe even for Integrate as well, because that trailer was kind of
Or Elden
spoilery.
Ring.
Or Elden
I
Ring.
didn't watch it. I don't want to know.
Don't watch
I don't
the
wanna
trailer,
know.
Max. Don't watch
I
it.
knew
It's
it.
super spoilery.
I know it.
Unbelievably
I'm not watching
spoilery.
it.
Yeah, don't. Anyways, we're out of here. Thank you so much for watching Drop Frames. We'll see you next week, 1 p.m. Eastern. Bye-bye.